You done now?
Every person in this room has the perfect motive.
Stand back!
For murder.
What do you mean? Murder.
But only one of these suspects is the murderer. Is it the timid Mr. Green?
Why are you screaming? Because I'm frightened of what? Screaming!
Or the militant Colonel Mustard?
If I was the killer, I would kill you next.
Huh?
Said half.
Mrs. White, who helped her husband on his way?
Well, it's a matter of life after death. Now that he's dead, I have a life.
Miss Scarlet, who's helped many men along the way?
Practice makes perfect.
Professor Plum, who's looking for a way?
I'm looking.
Mrs. Peacock?
I have absolutely no idea what we're doing here, but I am determined to enjoy myself.
Or did the butler do it?
No.
Paramount Pictures invite you to an evening of mystery,
Let us out!
murder,
This is getting quite serious.
and madness. In the movie that makes a scene of the crime,
So who did it?
Clue. It's not just a game anymore.
And we're here to talk about it. We're excited. My name is Brad Gilmore. I'm joined by the director of Clue of Whodunit, the Clue documentary, Jeff Smith.
Hello.
Hey Jeff, how are you, man?
Doing well. We just watched the first 60 seconds of Clue.
And it's enthralling.
So much happened.
It's an enthralling 60 seconds though, because within that 60 seconds, so much happened. Okay, we know. If you're listening or watching this for the first time, of course, we're going to break down Clue minute by minute. So there's going to be 97 episodes of this thing. And we're starting with minute 1, which is the obvious place to start. It begins with the Paramount logo, and it ends with the title for Leslie Ann Warren. Where do we start here? Because I guess this is my question for you, because you are the Clue historian now. You're like the guy.
Yes.
Like if they ever do any kind of like interviews, you know how there's always the cast and then there's the one expert who comes and talks about the
Historian at the bottom of the screen.
That's you.
Oh, I would love that. That'd be like back in the day on VH1, Best Week Ever, or, I love the 80s.
Oh, yeah, you're the guy.
If I bring that back, I'm the guy. Yeah, okay, I'll be that guy.
You're that guy. You are that guy. And so you being the expert, this is always the biggest question.
Yeah.
Okay, Parker Brothers. How does it start? I guess how does it start? Because when you think about all the board games that Parker Brothers has, which are dozens of different games, Clue, I guess it stands out as like a top one. But to me, like you would go Monopoly. Like let's make a Monopoly movie. Oh yeah,
Which
Ouija.
eventually they did. But I don't think at the time Parker Brothers was thinking, Monopoly and Clue were going to be movies. It was actually the producer, Deborah Hill, who is known for working with John Carpenter back in the day, Halloween and The Fog and Assault on Precinct 13. She was the one, the story goes, that she grew up playing Clue, and she was a fan of Clue because it was a game you had to be smart to play. And I don't know if you've played Clue anytime recently, but it's hard.
Yeah.
I did not really play Clue a lot growing up because you need to have at least 3 players, and I did not have that many friends. So only recently did I find in-laws that like board games, and so I brought over Clue, and I found I'm a terrible Clue player because I get impatient. So I also like to lie and bluff. Which is a big part of the game as well. It's much more, it's different than Chutes and Ladders where you just go blip, 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 and that's the end of the game. But Deborah Hill was a big fan, and she was the one that went to England where the game actually started. Different company. I wish I wrote things down before we started this because it wasn't Parker Brothers. Parker Brothers bought it from another company.
Because it was called Cluedo at first, right?
Cluedo, and it's from a company that starts with a W, and that's all I remember. And it was made during the war when everyone was kind of stuck indoors playing
Waddingtons.
Games. There you go.
Waddingtons.
That's
yes.
right. That's right. So that's where it started. And she basically got the rights for free. They didn't charge her anything. And I think they had some rules, but if you watch the movie Clue, I don't think a big company that did a board game that kids play would be so loose with some of the innuendo and some of the more adult themes that happen in this little PG, 1985 era PG, which is different than, there aren't really any PG movies anymore. But Pixar is now PG.
Yeah.
But back in 85 or even earlier, that was Temple of Doom and Poltergeist and even Airplane were all PG. But they were a little bit loose with the content where, Professor Plum is not an endearing character at all. But she was the one that decided that was going to be a movie. And then she put it all together and wanted to hire John Landis, which we can get to later. But originally he was going to be one of the director of a Clue movie, and he came up with the story.
It is, you're right about it being fast and loose with some of the language and the innuendo, and we'll get to that as we progress.
But there was worse in the original script. There were F-bombs even in the original.
I'm glad they took those out. That was a great call.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It would have been weird if it were an R-rated Clue.
Yeah.
Because it did seem like it was all that violent, although I only recently learned that one of the original endings, one of the characters actually was shot that they cut out. Which I'm glad they cut out, because that would have been pretty dark if all of a sudden one of these characters you were following suddenly got shot at the end. Not like the way Wadsworth does, where he just kind of rolls down the wall, but somebody got shot. But there was I guess originally when Wadsworth accidentally turns on the shower, he originally, turns it on, but then he followed that with, "I'm in the effing shower." And that was the line.
Yeah, so, we could do without it.
Yeah,
we could do without it.
PG Clue.
The cast, we've talked about before. You and I have a great interview that we'll put on this feed where we talk kind of in depth about the cast, and you do such a great job, by the way, in the Clue doc about kind of giving the backstory.
You've seen it. Not a lot of people have. Yes, let's not bury that lead.
Do you know how excited I was to get that link? 7
people have seen it in its entirety. Jonathan Lynn, the director of Clue, is one of them. I'm one of them. My fiance is one of them. My parents are executive producers, so I kind of had to show them.
That's 5. Me is 6.
But, so. You're definitely there's less than 10. I will say that, and you're one of them.
Well, I appreciate that, and I remember watching it. And here's the thing: this is another one of those movies that Clue the movie, something that I've loved my whole life, but never done the deep dive into like I did maybe for Back to the Future films or for the Bond books when I wrote that one. This one, I loved how you laid out the cast, and I just want to highlight a couple of the people because. You got to talk to some of the cast, which I think is so cool. We look at this in alphabetical order. Eileen Brennan obviously couldn't talk to her, but
yes.
Yeah, she's since passed. But Colleen Camp, who I think is probably the object of every young man's desire when they first see Clue the movie. Is that true for you?
She was very important for a lot of young men in the mid '80s. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. How was she though? Just how was she
She was hilarious. I didn't know what to expect from Colleen Camp, and she we met in her office. She's a producer now. I think the only movie that I've seen that she's produced is there's a Keanu Reeves kind of weird horror movie about 2 women. One of them is the new Marilyn Monroe called Knock Knock, where these 2 women show up at this married man's door and then seduce him into this weird bedroom situation, and and then his life falls apart from it. That's the story. But Colleen Camp, for whatever reason, is the producer on that. And I also knew her because I'm a big fan of the Police Academy movies. That's like my guilty pleasure. And she's in 2 and 4, Citizens on Patrol. So I was excited to meet her, but she was just, kind of all over the place. She had her 2 assistants there, and the
assistants was my favorite thing about it.
There's a part in the documentary where she's convinced that she's been in more than 2 movies with Michael McKean. She's been in the movie, obviously Clue, and Daryl, which is a very underrated sci-fi movie that they did together right before Clue. But she's convinced they've done like 4 or 5. And in the documentary has her assistant go through IMDb and go through his entire filmography And no, it's only 2. But but there was a part we cut out where she ordered lunch. So maybe that'll be a bonus feature at some point where she orders lunch on during the interview and even makes comment. I love this is being captured. She got jasmine rice. I do remember that. No, she was very helpful, and there were a few people that attempted to, you might be one of them, to get Christopher Lloyd in front of the camera, which never did happen. Although, thanks to your help, I at least got an answer back. It was a no, but
we tried though.
No, that's okay. I was happy with that because forever it was just kind of, in Christopher Lloyd land. And there's a clip in the documentary of him at a convention, and that's probably all he would have said if we sat down about Clue. Because I think a lot of people that did Clue, their memories are, they did it and then they moved on. I'm sure he remembers a lot more about Back to the Future or Roger Rabbit or Star Trek than Clue, and probably less of Walk Like a Man, which he was in with Colleen Camp, which is a fine film.
I've never seen that. I don't even think I've ever heard of it.
It stars Howie Mandel, who plays Christopher Lloyd's brother, who was raised by wolves. And then they find him because he's going to get the inheritance of their dead father. And Christopher Lloyd is a bad guy in the movie.
You know what? Underrated bad guy.
Good bad guy. Well, Judge Doom. And
yeah.
Great. But and then Colleen Camp is his constantly intoxicated wife in Walk Like a Man. Originally called Bobo the Dog Boy. Look it up, everybody.
Okay, I don't know how you know that. Normally I'm coming with the crazy facts.
HBO. It was on HBO a lot.
Oh, man. What is it called? Walk Like a Man?
Walk Like a Man. And the song, Walk Like a Man is heavily featured in there. So add that for all you Christopher Lloyd fans. If you want to watch him play a jerk with Colleen Camp, that's it.
That's it.
Anyway.
That's it. Here was what I was surprised at from your documentary, and then when we see some of these names, and we've talked about Michael McKean, and obviously we're going to spend a lot of time over this podcast talking about Tim Curry. So we'll save some Tim Curry for when we get there. But people like Madeline Kahn or Leslie Ann Warren, I didn't really realize the pedigree of actor that they were. These are Academy Award nominated actresses.
Yeah. 3 of them, Eileen Brennan.
And Eileen Brennan, yeah.
Well, yeah. I didn't know who, before I saw Clue as a kid, I didn't know who Eileen Brennan was. I didn't know who Leslie Ann Warren was. I didn't know who Martin Mull was, although I probably had seen Mr. Mom, and he plays a jerk in that. I knew Michael McKean because of Laverne and Shirley. I don't know if I'd even seen any Mel Brooks movies. I'd seen the Muppet movie. I grew up with the Muppet movie. So I knew Madeline Kahn was in the Muppet movie because she asked Kermit to buy her a drink. And then Telly Savalas shows up. And then Carol Kane shows up. So I knew from that. And then who else? Christopher Lloyd, I think I'd seen Back to the Future already, but I don't think I made that connection. And actually a lot of people now, I just recently put up a TikTok page for the documentary, which I had never done before. And a lot of people all of a sudden, I totally underestimated TikTok. Holy moly, there's a lot of people out there. And a lot of them are younger. So they're like, I didn't know Doc Brown was in Clue. But somehow they had seen Clue, so their parents probably showed it to them. But he certainly doesn't look like he does.
No, I mean, they're very different looking.
Kind of over your shoulder, he kind of looks like that. But more so than
the Einstein.
Yeah. Totally. Totally.
Yeah, I didn't realize the caliber of actresses that were in Clue. And Leslie Ann Warren, I knew her before, and I'm trying to remember what I saw her in. I can't.
Probably not. I mean, Victor Victoria is not something for the young. It's pretty adult.
I'm looking at her IMDb. I have really no idea what I saw her in.
The only other thing I had seen her in, and I recognized her from Clue, was when I was in high school, I was a big Aerosmith fan. And she plays the mom in the video for Janie's Got a Gun, which was directed by David Fincher. And she just has like 3 or 4 shots where she's just kind of standing off to the side going, like reacting to all these terrible things that are happening. But when I interviewed Leslie Ann Warren, I said, "You were in Janie's Got a Gun." She goes, "Oh, Aerosmith, they were so nice." And I don't even think they're in scenes together, but those are the two things. And she was also on the Muppet Show, so maybe I'd seen that.
Maybe it's the Muppet Show. I'm right now.
It always goes back to Muppets.
I'm a
I don't
little.
know. If you notice in the documentary, there's a lot of shots of Muppets.
There are a few
I didn't mean
documentary
to,
Muppets.
but I'm a fan.
I'm looking at her page right now, her Wikipedia, and I just discovered something I did not know about her. She was married to John Peters.
Oh yeah, John Peters.
John Peters, for those who don't know, is kind of a legendary figure in Hollywood for a few reasons, but he was just played by Bradley Cooper in Licorice Pizza. He is a hairdresser who became a film producer. He produced
was he married to Barbra Streisand or just
get this?
Yes,
he was with Barbra Streisand for a decade, from 73 to 82.
Yeah.
He marries some woman named Henrietta. Well, that was before her. Okay, so that was before Streisand. But before Streisand, he was also married to Leslie Ann Warren.
Yeah, I think they have a kid.
I think they do. Now that I'm reading this, so Leslie Ann Warren, Barbra Streisand, in his most recent marriage was to Pamela Anderson.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I did not know that either.
I didn't know that. I know John Peters from, if anybody's a fan of the Evening with Kevin Smith documentaries, John Peters is the one famously that wanted to put the giant spider in the Superman movie, and
Superman Lives.
Read the screen and would lay back on the couch, and because he wanted to see the movie like this through his mind's eye. And then he produced Wild Wild West,
where we got the giant spider. Well, speaking of great documentaries, there's a great documentary called The Death of Superman Lives.
Very good. I admire that documentary because I can't believe like Tim Burton jumped on board.
Yeah,
like
John Peters, Kevin Smith,
they
were all in
there.
it.
That was like, that's up there like in Heart of Darkness, Apocalypse Now documentary territory, or even the Fantastic Four Roger Corman documentary was an excellent one as well.
Yeah.
Not everybody else's documentaries.
Might as well. The late great John Schnepp was the director of that one. I never got to meet John, but we were in the same room at one point. I was going to go over and talk to him about the movie, but he has since passed.
Fantastic Four?
Of the Death of Superman Lives. Death of Superman Lives.
Oh yeah, that was amazing. I was shocked by the access that and just the honesty of like A-listers, because usually they don't talk about projects that fell apart, but very honest in that one.
Yeah, very crazy. I'm looking at all the movies that John Peters has produced. He's produced quite a few.
Batman. I mean, the Tim Burton Batman is up there, and that's one of the things that Kevin Smith describes about John Peters' house. It looks like Wayne Manor in the Tim Burton Batman, where you go up the big driveway and it's beyond the gate, and kooky dude. I think it's what he calls him, a kooky dude.
Well, he seems like it, but listen to this, Caddyshack. He did Caddyshack.
Yeah.
Wow.
Great tan, too. Great tan and great hair. I mean, that's for any time I've seen him in anything, he looks well put together. What else?
He's listed as an executive producer of Clue.
Clue. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if you look at the credits that we just watched, it does say Peters. What that means, I do not know. But
did I miss John Peters' name in these credits? Paramount presents
one of the executive producers.
Oh yeah, a Goober Peters production.
As it, Peter Goober was the one that like really was involved, but you know how some like executive producers are like, oh, I was on that. Okay.
I guess that's weird too, because he was divorced from Leslie Ann Warren.
I think they're still friendly though.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I know. Good for them.
Good for him, man.
Yeah, good for him and Leslie Ann Warren. I wish them the best.
What a I mean, that's quite the cast of characters to be married to Leslie Ann Warren, be with Barbra Streisand and Pamela Anderson in your lifetime. It's a pretty interesting mix of individuals.
Yeah, he did all right.
I gotta say, he's betting 1,000. He's betting 1,000, John Peters. Congratulations to him.
And he had good hair, so he's like,
phenomenal head of hair.
The Lord nodded kindly to John Peters. And he was a hairstylist that became a Hollywood A-lister, so he may have sold his soul.
He may have done something like that.
Going getting back to Ouija, he may have sold his soul to the devil. But that'll be on another episode, ladies and gentlemen. Did John Peters sell his soul to the devil?
We'll figure that out as we go forward with this podcast. I think that might be all for this minute. I think we've
Good
covered
minute.
a lot in the minute. I'm trying to see if there's anything that we may have missed because
From the credits?
From the
We didn't
credits.
see anything. I mean, all we saw was clouds, the font, which is great.
Font is great.
I like that the clue title is in a box, so it's kind of like the card.
The card. Mm-hmm.
Uh,
The clouds.
I like the it's not on the soundtrack that's been released, but I always liked the very low, like that little note that happens over the Paramount logo, which I totally stole in the last trailer I did for the documentary. It pops up and it's underneath the logo for my production company, and I thought, some nerd is going to catch that this is the opening. Just one. I don't even know what note it is. It's probably I don't know what note it is, but
It's a C
just-
sharp for sure.
Oh my gosh, I'm so full of it. And then it goes into the John Morris score, which is amazing. And I do have things I could talk about with the John Morris score.
Well,
but
let's get to that in the next minute. We'll see you. That's Jeff Smith. I'm Brad Gilmore. Again, cluedoc.com.
yeah.
Cluedoc.com. So go check out the documentary. And we're going to talk more Clue by the minute on the next episode.
By the minute.
Oh, Brad, what have you done now?